Hello, everyone. This is Wes Miller with Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football and proud member of Blue Wire Hustle. Join me, Jesse, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news around the league, predictions for next week's matchups, and more. And welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Pigskins and Pageantry. Another wild weekend of games is in the books, and I mean some really wild ones were out there this past weekend. Actually, Jesse is traveling for work this week and will not make the show. But joining me, as always, my good friend and yours, Matt. What's going on, my friend?
I as you can see, I'm taking in the sights. We got our butt kicked by Georgia on Saturday, so I had to do something for my mental health, and so I decided to take a trip to the beach.
Nothing cures the blues like a little paradise, right?
You're not wrong. I think there's a Garth Brooks song about that now that I think about
Something like
that. I'm just kidding. I'm sitting in my kitchen, but I needed something festive because, wow, Georgia, did we upset you? Like, what did we do? We'll talk.
We'll talk about it. It wasn't all roses to begin with, though. But yeah. Let's go ahead and get into those games.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
All right, the first game we'll talk about was New Mexico State at Alabama. This was a blowout as we expected. Bama 59-3. I got the point in this one. I said 59-7. I mean, come on,
Oh, you needed that extra one.
Could have just held them out of the end zone. That would have been nice. I really don't have anything to say about this game because it's a blowout as we expected. I know a lot of guys got to play though, I know some of Bama's backups. People got some good looks at those. And I think was it second or third string quarterback for Bama, Milroe. Is that his name? Is it Milroe? I think. Let me check it.
Yes, Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, Jalen Milroe. Yeah, apparently he looked pretty good. So a lot of Bama fans are excited about that. We'll also talk about that later. But before I move on, Matt, do you have anything to say on this one?
No, I didn't have a chance to watch this because it's Bama playing New Mexico State. I mean, no offense to the great people of New Mexico, but I can't remember the last time anybody from New Mexico played football. Anyway, Bama rolls. I mean, they handled their business just like you expect them to do when they play a less than stellar 1-9 New Mexico State team. So they got 587 yards of total offense. I think they did what they were supposed to. By the way, they held New Mexico State to 9 rushing yards. 9.
This is what you should do against a lesser opponent.
Yes.
And we'll have more to say on that in a little bit as well.
Yeah, definitely took care of business. If you look at the stat line, Bryce Young got 270 yards. He went 21 for 23, 5 touchdowns. I think he did what he was supposed to do there. And then they had 6 running backs in double digits on the week. So, yeah, I'd say they took care of business.
Pretty good day, yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on from that one because
there's not a lot to say.
Not much to say. I mean, they blew them out. What do you want me to say? Next game was Mississippi State at Auburn, and this one was one of those wild ones that I was talking about at the top of the show. Mississippi State winning this one 43-34. Nobody got the point because, well, can you blame us? We didn't pick them. I think a lot of us picked it based on the Jordan Hare juju, and
it's a great way to describe it.
And that didn't really pan out either. If anything, it seemed to kind of reverse a little bit in a strange turn of events. But Auburn led by a big margin, 28-3 to be exact, with 6:10 left in the second quarter. But then Mississippi State scored 40 unanswered, 40 points unanswered, and went on to win 43-34 for the largest comeback in school history for Mississippi State. Air raid offense in full swing yet again. We've said that in many weeks. A big difference from what we were talking about last year, where they're really trying to work out the kinks in that. And, Mike Leach basically gutting that team by, with the transfer portal guys leaving and really trying to figure out who all was in it to buy into his methods. But this year is a little bit different. 10 different receivers caught passes for Mississippi State in this game. They are now bowl eligible, so that's big for them as well. And then, just talking about the slow start Mississippi State got off to, to their credit, they didn't let that stop them, including Will Rogers, who started off 5 for 11. So not a great start for him, but then finishes 44 of 45. So of 55, sorry. 44 of 45 would be amazing.
Something in that math didn't work out right.
44 of 55. Anyway, and 6 touchdowns. Let's listen to Mike Leach and what he had to say about their comeback.
Well, I think the biggest thing is we didn't get discouraged by the first half, and that would have been easy to do. And so I was proud of our guys that they didn't get discouraged. We stuck together, hung together coming out the second half. I thought that the biggest thing is we played better. That first half, I thought we played kind of tentative. We kind of played not to lose, sort of, but then as we played aggressively. Of course, we executed better. I think, as simple and odd as it sounds, we just played faster. I'm not talking like hurry on the ball faster. There was probably a little of that, but the biggest thing, we just played. We got lined up faster. We got lined up ready to play. And sometimes guys, they'll get lined up, and if they have too much to
Good God, Coach.
I think they need to be doing a lot of thinking, because we already did all that in practice, and everybody knows their job. So line up and do your job fast, because that's why everybody's got a job, to attack the other guy with their job. And I thought we did that the second half.
I actually cut off that clip because he just continued to ramble on and on and on. But yeah. So Bo Nix actually came out of the game late in the third in this one. We'll talk more about that later with an apparent foot injury. But yeah, Matt, what were your thoughts on this game? Ultimately, even with him being out of the game, they just weren't able to stop Mississippi State on offense.
Listen, if you're a Braves fan, scratch that. If you're a Falcons fan who is also an Auburn fan, you should have seen the writing on the wall.
Oh, no.
And I think I tweeted this during the game. We've seen 28-3 before.
Yeah.
And that same thing happened to the Falcons again this past weekend, where they were getting blown out 28-3. It's like got reversed. Anyway, kudos to Mississippi State for not rolling over and dying here. That's a hostile environment. Jordan Hare, it's got that juju like we talked about. You go down 25 points in the in the second quarter. It's the response is fantastic. As an old football coach myself, if my team was down 28-3, and then if you told me we won the game 43-34, I'd be ecstatic. So great job by Mississippi State to fire back here. How about Will Rogers? Just absolutely lighting it up, 415 yards and 6 touchdowns. By the way, I want to shout out Mekhi Polk and Jameer Calvin, both of them with multiple touchdown catches for Mississippi State during this game. So great effort by them. I don't know what happened to Auburn. You dominate them through the first 2 quarters, and all of a sudden they put up 33 points in the second half, and you score 6. It's just
inexplicable. Yeah.
Well, what it is I think that somebody in the booth for Mississippi State, or maybe Leach himself, saw something to exploit, and they just went to town on it. Good coaching adjustment. Good for the players not to just roll over and say die. It's really easy to roll over and just say it's over and done with at that point, like we've seen teams do before. But great win for Mississippi State. And here's the kicker: you take away a missed field goal, and Mississippi State's at 7 wins now, potentially going into the Ole Miss game with 8 wins, I think.
Oh yeah, and don't forget the LSU game where they had potential to win, and then the Memphis game, which was basically stolen from them.
You could be looking at nine wins out of Mississippi State this season.
Unbelievable.
If things go the way they're supposed to. And here we were talking at the beginning of the year like Leach's hot seat was boiling.
Right.
So maybe the air raid works. Maybe it does.
And when you get the right people in there and people who believe, I think that's the big thing is buy-in. Did you see after the game, Mike Leach? I put dancing in quotes for those who can't see. dancing in the locker room. Yeah, that was.
It was like every drunk white uncle at a wedding.
Man, it was so great. It was so awesome,
and he looked so happy.
He did.
He looked so happy.
He looked happy, but also uncomfortable at the same time.
Yes,
it was
incredibly uncomfortable.
So, somebody did ask him about how does Mike Leach celebrate, and let's hear what he said.
I'm going to get on a bus, and I'm going to ride for 4 hours to Starkville, Mississippi. Now, okay, the bus, it'll be with friends and good people and coaches and teammates. So that part will be outstanding. However, now those of you that have never been to Starkville, Mississippi, you don't even remotely have the fragment of an idea what you're missing, what Starkville, Mississippi will be like tonight. Now, it does take 4 hours to get there, and I will try to fill my time with everything from, well, I might have a Chick-fil-A sandwich. I might even, those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that they press them together and throw them in a little plastic bag. I might have one or two of those because I got up early this morning, so I didn't eat much. So I might eat that. And then somewhere in that 4 hours, providing the Wi-Fi works, which I have some doubts, and then I'll try to watch this entire game, evaluate it, and get kind of a head start on the next one. Because, if you think this was a thriller, we got a big one next week, and we're looking forward to that one.
So
the man can't do anything wrong in my book. Like, oh my goodness. By the way, is he slowly turning into John Madden? Like, I just maybe feel like the way he was, like, in that first clip you played, it was very John Madden-esque. Go over here, boom, right there. Like, I felt like I was listening to John Madden. It was great.
And just kind of getting revved up there sometimes. I love it.
And someone please get Coach a bottle of water. I mean, God.
So did you see in the first clip where he was coughing all the time, he actually had one. I don't know if you heard that on the table.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually the bottle of water falling over next to him, and he actually picked it up. And so maybe it was a good reminder for him. I don't know.
I hate Jesse missed this week just because of those clips. She would have had such a kick out of that.
Oh yeah, she'll have to take a listen. But yeah, from one crazy game to another, but just in a much different way. We're moving on to Samford at Florida. Florida won this one 70-52. That's right, 52 points of offense scored by Samford in this game. I got the point in this one, but my gosh, I love the AP's article, or the opening line in their article, because they're ruthless, man. They said Florida coach Dan Mullen celebrated his team's 70-52 victory against lower division Samford like nothing was wrong. He sang with his team, posed for pictures, shook hands with fans, and then made excuses for one of the worst defensive performances in school history. It was more surreal than the Gators' first half numbers Saturday. Now, 52 points is the most points that any FCS school has ever scored against an SEC opponent.
Ouch.
Hey, I'm just proud that they have the record and not us, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
By the way, I want to know, where was this Florida team when Tennessee played them?
Right. Yeah.
Because holy crap.
It seems like it's just been a steady, slow descent this year, hasn't it?
There's a word for that, Wes. Do you know what that word is?
What is it?
It's the Pigskins and Pageantry word of the day. That word is, get ready, kids, regression.
Regression.
Welcome to Mullen Mania.
I think that might be the title of the episode. Regression.
So the new what do they say? The new fragrance by Dan Mullen.
Yeah, we just need some kind of like Fiddler on the Roof regression. Anyway. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I've given up trying to understand what's going on. They fired Todd Grantham and their O-line coach. The defense looked like they probably should have kept Grantham based on that performance.
They looked very unprepared. Unprepared.
Samford's quarterback had 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I mean, this is an FCS school. And look, I'm not shortchanging these guys. I'm sure they're talented. But when you have the talent that Florida has, this should not happen. And even if it's a down year, This should not happen. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
This is a 4-6 Samford team. Okay. This is a team that has not been blowing it up this season. Let's just take a little step back and take a look at who they've lost to. They lost to UT Martin. They lost to East Tennessee State. They lost to Mercer. They lost to UTC, UT Chattanooga. They lost to VMI. And then they had this loss to Florida. This is a team that has not really performed well on the season. But somehow they're hanging with and beating Florida through, I think, most of this game, correct?
Most of, yeah.
Florida roars back in the third quarter, but I remember we were checking the score while we were calling the Houston County High School game, playoff game, and we were checking the score, and we we're like, is this real life? Like,
right.
On what weird, like, where did we deviate into this darkest timeline? Although it's not that dark, into this darkest timeline where Florida is losing to Samford.
Right.
Like, it's just ridiculous. By the way, I was looking at the stat line a little while ago, and the number that popped out at me was this: 717 total yards of offense for Florida. That might be the most I think I've ever seen out of a team. And I'm curious as to if you broke that down by quarter, where those all showed up. I would imagine probably the second and third quarter, because that's where most of their scoring happened. Hold on a second. Let me pull it back up. Oh no, I lost it. There it is. Emory Jones goes 28 for 34 for 464 yards and 6 TDs. Any other game, if we had that stat line, we're thinking Emory Jones is great. And they put up 70 points, and that's great and all, but how are you going to give up 52 points to Samford? To quote Jesse, "Oh no, baby, what is you doing?"
Yeah. Now here's a fun, an on the fly, just for fun segment for you. If Florida loses this game, do you think that Mullen would be fired?
Absolutely. I don't think he even gets off the field before they tell him he's done.
That's just,
to be completely honest, if I was the head coach of Florida and my team just lost to a 4-5 Samford team, I don't know if I'd even want to go back in the locker room. There's a lot of things going on in Florida that we don't really have the full picture of.
Right.
And I'm curious as to what's going on. I think we'll have a better idea of it here in the next couple of weeks. Because if Florida's going to make a move away from Mullen, then they're going to have to pull the trigger on that fairly quickly.
Well, it's like any other coaching change. Who you're going to get? That's fine if you want to fire him, but who?
You can go after UGA's offensive coordinator. You can go after one of Bama's coordinators. There's plenty of options out there. It's just a question of, do they want to restart again after they bring in Dan Mullen?
This is his fourth year.
By this score.
This is his fourth year. Mullen's fourth year.
And we haven't seen a whole lot of progression, to be completely honest.
Well, absolutely. To go back to your word, regression is what we've seen.
Well, yeah. Well, to be fair, though, in Dan Mullen's honor,
don't bring up the Kyles. Don't do it.
No, I wasn't going to bring that up. I was just saying prior to, they weren't doing so hot under. Who was the coach before them? I don't even remember now.
Muschamp. Was that Muschamp?
Yeah. Muschamp was at South Carolina when.
Was it McElwain?
Last time. Was it McElwain 4 years ago? Yeah, it had to be.
It was, because I remember we used to talk about Jim McElwain on this show when we first started.
Right. The whole shark naked on the boat with a shark.
Yeah, that one. Who knows if that really was him, but it sure looked like him.
but let's be clear here. He's gone 34-14 at Florida, which isn't awful. He's been, let me see if I can't get a breakdown of what he went. 10-3 his first season. He went 11-2 his second season. 8-4 in 2020. 5-5 in 2021 so far. I call that regression, because you're coming back down a little bit. I mean, 10 wins, 11 wins, 8 wins. Now that it's looking like they're going to get probably 7 wins, maybe 6 if things don't break their way. I would say that's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, and it's not just been the performance on the field. I think it's been just how Dan Mullen has handled questions as well, and just the general grumpy way that he gets when people ask about any potential problems.
Combative would be the word I'd use to describe it.
Combative, absolutely.
He's gotten very combative in certain certain situations when he gets called on things.
And look, Saban can be combative, but I think there's a certain measure of grace when you're winning a lot of football games. You can be combative if you're, winning championships and things like that. But if your program is struggling and you're being combative and defensive about things, I think that looks bad. And I just, again, I have to go back to the locker room. I wonder if he's lost it. I wonder if he's lost the locker room and the buy-in and stuff like that. And we'll see that next year. I wonder if that'll carry over.
And keep in mind, too, this is something else to think about with the Dan Mullen situation. While at Florida versus the top 25, Dan Mullen has gone 4-7. And versus the top 10,
Ouch.
He's gone 2-6. And that's a bit rough. It's a bit rough.
Ouch. Yeah. And then, look, I know it sounds like we're piling on them. Obviously, we're Georgia and Tennessee fans here. We love to hate on Florida anyway. But if I was a Florida fan right now, putting that Georgia aside, if I was a Florida fan right now, I would be worried, legit.
Yeah,
so, and I think most Florida fans are kind of over Mullen right now.
Well, I think they've been over Mullen. If you look back at their body of work for the season, they hung with Alabama for most of that game, lost by 2. They lost to Kentucky by a touchdown. They lost to LSU by a touchdown. Georgia's the only game. Well, Georgia and South Carolina are the only 2 games where they got blown out. And to be completely honest with you, they probably shouldn't have lost South Carolina. I'm still trying to figure out what happened on that game last week. But that was just a perfect storm, I think. Coming off a UGA loss, a little bit of a hangover probably. On top of that, Carolina got up for that one. It's just one of those situations. But here's the thing. Florida has Mizzou next, and then they have FSU after that. So I say they should beat Mizzou. Should. Although now I don't know. And they should beat FSU but FSU may not be that bad. I don't know. But if Mullen finishes the season 5-7, I think he's gone.
They posed a question on one of the ESPN podcasts about the 3 Florida teams, Florida State, Miami, and Florida. Which one of those will be the first one to get back to playing to their, what we expect from them? And both of the people on the show said they put Miami and Florida State ahead of Florida. They figured Florida would be last on that. I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't either.
Because Florida is a hotbed to recruit. If you can get the right system going, and we saw, look at last year, Florida, had a great season last year. And they're really just kind of, I don't know what's going on this season, underperforming. I know, as we've said, they lost a lot of talent. But you should be pulling in that new talent that's ready to take over. So
you should still have somebody behind. It's not a situation like Tennessee ran into where all your talent ran to the transfer portal. So
right.
I don't know.
All right, let's go ahead and get to Georgia at Tennessee. Georgia won this one 41-17. Jesse got the point in this one, actually.
Somebody that wasn't wearing red won something.
But that score is not indicative of the entire tone of the game, as we said at the top. It was kind of touch and go at the beginning. When Tennessee scored that first touchdown, I'm not gonna lie, man, I was a little scared. We came back and we scored, of course, but still, they were still kind of moving the ball well after that. Got some more points. But I felt like as the game kind of wore along, Georgia kind of was able to get a feel for the pace of the game and did make adjustments defensively to kind of slow down that tempo offense that Tennessee runs. It's honestly rough, even on a defense like Georgia. Although I did notice that when Tennessee went tempo, if the defense was able to take away that first, because they like to go with that quick hit option because they catch you out of position, right? And they go ahead and get that quick hit option and then run right by it because you're not even in position. If the defense was able to be in position enough to take away that option, the tempo actually worked against the offense because at that point he's got nowhere to go with the ball and he's just kind of stuck. He's got to eat it or, improvise.
Yeah.
Anyway, things didn't really go as planned there. So I was pleased with the focus. I've been pleased with the focus all year long with the Dogs because, we say that, especially with Georgia fans, we know that we're just 1 week away from that one lack of focus game. Hoping that we don't come across too many injuries. And you'll remember this game, Matt. I think, yeah, Georgia did win this game, but it was super costly. I don't know if you remember the game back. It was in Neyland. You guys wore the smoky gray, and who was the guy? The nickname Pig. What was that guy?
Pig Howard. Pig
Yeah.
Howard. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he had such a good performance that game, and it was just back and forth. And yeah, we won the game, but I think we had like so many injuries, and we had some
I think that was 17.
We had some key players go down with injury that game. So yeah, it was a win, but it was costly. I was beginning to wonder if this was going to be another one of those, because we had several, especially D linemen, go down. Saw Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt both go down. I was kind of curious why we had the ones in at that time of the game, but we have more to say on that later on in the show. I get trying to keep the average down, but I know there's more in play than just that. Anyway, that's really kind of what I had to say in summary of that. But what were your thoughts, Matt?
So I got a lot of flack from, people on Twitter, because somebody ran with one of my tweets and I said Tennessee was going to win this game by 3 or 4 points. And so I had a couple of mentions on Twitter. And I said in my responses, because I'm like, you want me to own up to a bad beat? I'll own up to a bad beat. It was a bad take. I thought that Georgia hadn't been tested. I thought that Georgia's defense was going to be gassed from the pace. I assumed that Tennessee would be able to move the ball a little bit more efficiently, and they did for the first 2 or 3 drives. But Georgia made some adjustments, and you ended up shutting that whole thing down. Tennessee had 55 yards total rushing, not great. Hendon Hooker took 6 sacks on the night. So definitely that defensive line and those linebackers were keeping him busy, wasn't able to get him comfortable. I was talking to my buddy Rodney about the game, because he was the one that kind of put the idea that Tennessee was going to win in my head. And I said, Coach, we were wrong. And he said, you weren't wrong. Your quarterback didn't play well. And I went, yeah, that's fairly true. Hendon struggled, but a lot of those sacks were coverage sacks. So I'll own up to it. Georgia was the better team. They still are the better team. They're the ones to beat. They looked good. It was, like you said, touch and go at the first little bit, but Georgia responded. They did not do what Georgia typically does, where when things start to go against them, they fall apart, which they've done in the past. That didn't happen in this game. So kudos to them. I'm not going to say best of luck, because I can't stand the idea of them winning a national championship. No offense, Wes, but you know where I stand on that.
I'm taking.
But, it is what it is. Tennessee's got to find a way to bounce back and get bowl eligible. And we got 2 decent chances at that coming up the next 2 weeks. So I'll take 7-5 at the end of the season. If we're 7-5, if we're 8-5, even better. 7-6, I'll be happy. I've been pretty pleased with how we've looked overall, especially after the first couple of weeks. Those first couple of weeks, it was kind of, we lost to Pitt. We shouldn't have lost to Pitt in retrospect. That should have been a win. But we were playing without Hendon Hooker at the time. We lost to Florida. Yeah, we lost to Florida, which we shouldn't have lost to Florida. Looking back on how Florida's looked lately, I wish we were playing them in November this year instead of playing them in August or in September when we played them. The Ole Miss game I felt was winnable. The only 2 games where we've been nuked is Bama and Georgia, and those are elite, top tier SEC teams. So it is what it is. Got to bounce back and find a way to win.
Yeah, and I think your take wasn't completely wrong. I mean, I think Georgia really hadn't necessarily been tested in that way, and they were tested, and this time they passed the test. Now, we'll see other offenses they go against. Everybody's going to give different looks. We'll have to make adjustments then too. So we'll see if that continues. So, but yeah, we'll see how things go for the rest of the season. And like I said, it's great to get the win, right? But it's kind of all for now. We got to finish, right? Each one of these wins is great to get, but we got to finish, and we'll see how that goes.
And see, that's the kicker between a good team and a great team, is finding ways to win. Now Georgia has not run into anything that they struggled with this season so far, and I don't know if they're going to. They may in the playoff, they may struggle with Bama, but great teams find ways to win. And Georgia, as much as it pains me to say it, might be a great team.
Yeah. So far so good. We'll see how that goes. But all right, let's talk about Carolina at Mizzou. Mizzou won this one 31-28. Matt was the only one to pick Mizzou. Look at you.
I told you they come because they were going to be a little hungover from that win last week.
Right.
I knew it was going to happen.
I guess that ultimately was what happened. But yeah, I mean, this one was kind of sloppy. 3 turnovers on both sides. But despite giving up 14 points in the fourth quarter, Mizzou manages to hold on. So they almost kind of gave it away there at the end. But they take home the Mayor's Cup this year, which is shared between those two teams.
I didn't know they had a cup.
Both of those teams are in a Columbia. Their towns are Columbia.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
So they have a little fun with that, I think. Let's listen to what Coach Drinky had to say about the win.
Coach, you called it Trophy Week all week long. How important was winning the Mayor's Cup for your team?
Yeah, it's pretty important. Our student section over there, it was awesome. It's never easy, but a win's a win.
And this is the 4th 200-yard game for Tyler Beatty. How special is he?
He's really special. I mean, we put the game on his shoulders again, just like against Vanderbilt, and he delivered.
And for your team, what do you want to build on from here, especially the defensive performance?
Well, winning. I mean, you want to build on winning. We held him to 57 yards rushing. If we don't turn the ball over there, it's a lot different, but we did, and our defense found a way to stop him.
Coach, congrats on the Mayor's Cup.
Thank you very much. MIZ.
MIZ. I can see the
MOUSE.
I can see I can see the disdain on your face whenever he talks, but
I just listen. I don't like the guy. It's illogical. It makes no sense. I don't know why, but I don't like him.
Yeah. No, hey, it's okay. We all have that person, right? Whether it's logical or not.
Well, Jesse has Jimbo.
Jimbo, yeah.
I have Drinky. Who's your guy? I guess we probably got rid of your guy, who's probably like somebody's coach at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to mull on that one a little bit.
That should be our Just for Fun segment next week. Who does Wes hate the most as far as SSD coaches?
I feel like Mullen could be it, but I feel like most of that's earned. I don't know if that's illogical or not.
No, that's earned.
But anyway, did you notice that they were playing Sandstorm in the background?
I heard that, and
it's at Mizzou. So
as someone who has dabbled in arena music like that, because I used to do music for the Bacon, and you get those little subtle spots where I can really twist the knife. That was a nice little twist from Missouri's athletic department.
Yeah, they had a little fun with that one. So yeah, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the trajectory of both of these teams. Mizzou kind of on the way down. Carolina hopes that they're on the way up. They're showing flashes every now and then. So we'll watch them closely.
I think what this boiled down to is this was a step back because they were hungover from the Florida win.
I completely agree.
That was such an emotional win for them that they just couldn't handle it, and you ended up with them.
It's the rat poison, even in a small, even in a microcosm of it. It's there.
Yep. The rat poison will get you every time. By the way, kudos to Tyler Beatty. 34 catches for 209 yards. It's a heck of a day. By the way, I want to point out when Tennessee played Tyler Beatty had 42 yards. Anyway, let's move on, Wes. Sorry, I had to twist that knife a little bit.
Hey, gotta throw it in there. All right, next we had Texas A&M at Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss won this one 29-19. Jesse was the only one to pick Ole Miss. If you're following, Ole Miss hosted game day in Oxford this past weekend, and I know they had a lot of fun with that. Lane Kiffin was the guest picker on college game day because I think Katy Perry bailed, right? And yeah. I think she was scheduled and then she couldn't make it. And then so they called Lane, and Lane came up, and it was just awesome. Corso picked Ole Miss. I don't really know. I guess that was a point of fun for them as well. Yeah, because later, how the game day crew, they'll walk around campus, and Corso was on the sidelines during the game. I saw Lane looking over at him. I think it was before the game, and giving him the thumbs up, and
the Joey Freshwater thumbs up.
Right. Yes. Oh, it was so funny. But yeah, Ole Miss dominated the game on both sides of the ball, but somehow only led 15-13 in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was just really weird to witness that. But then at the end, 2 picks by Zach Calzada. One was a tip ball. That wasn't really his fault. But then the other one was a throw that kind of was his fault. And that one was the pick 6. That really put the nail in the coffin and put the game away. So Texas A&M, they are kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team. And this one, they really didn't play well. I'd like to listen to Lane Kiffin, what he and Matt Corral both had to say after this game. And then Matt will get your thoughts.
Well, Coach Kiffin, the first half was all offense. The fourth quarter was all defense. How was this a total team win for you guys tonight?
Well, it was a team win, but it was a defensive win. Our defense played unbelievable today. We left the ball in the red zone a million times down there, so it was awesome to see the way they performed. And it just fit in good. He shouldn't have slid at the end there, and the game would have been over earlier, but...
It's a small criticism. Matt Corral, you continue to tough it out through injury. How are you showing your team how to be tough and keep competing out there?
I just don't want them worrying about me, and they see that, and when they get hurt, they're going to take that same approach. So when they see me do that type of thing, they just know it's just a mindset. And when they get that going, those young guys, it's instilled them early, it just makes us that much better.
You guys are getting that. You got some receivers back that weren't 100%. How does having a full complement start to help this offense?
I mean, regardless of who's out there, we're going to get the job done, but it's just a cherry on top when our guys are back, definitely.
Coach, I know a lot of people are talking about Matt for the Heisman, and even if it's too early, what do you say to Heisman voters about this young man right here?
Well, just unbelievable competitor. Like you said, he's finally getting some receivers back, so we got a lot of football left, but we're 8-2, and, we both remember to thank God for this opportunity to be able to play with these guys, coach with these guys, and what an awesome environment, and having game day in here was amazing.
I guess that guy that did the picks on game day was okay. He did okay.
Yeah, he did. Who was that guy?
What pictures?
Well, I noticed I picked Ole Miss.
I don't know. Oh, the picks.
I actually
that guy.
him the ones that screwed, but I did have some few upsets too.
He did.
Oh, man.
Good job, guys, both of you.
Guys.
Thank you.
So Matt Corral heard the word picks and thought she was talking about pictures, I guess. And so he was like, oh, picks. That was a fun interview at the end. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, like you said, Jesse was the only one that got a point here, right? Isn't that what we said? I think we both.
Yeah, she was the only one to pick Ole Miss.
I think we both picked A&M, you and me.
Correct.
Lane's just finding a way to turn them into a giant killer. I'm curious as to what this is going to look like going forward. Because why Ole Miss? I just wish Ole Miss to beat Alabama. I would love to see Ole Miss in an SEC championship game. Sorry, Jesse. It would just be really entertaining to watch, that happen. I would love to see Georgia and Ole Miss matched up. That would be a heck of a fight as far as that goes. We were not going to get that at this point, I don't think. I think even if Bama loses to Auburn in the Iron Bowl, I think I'm looking at the standings right now. That would put
it was going to be A&M, but then A&M lost.
Right, so that would put Bama at 2 losses. That put Ole Miss at 2 losses, but Bama has the tiebreaker. So I think Bama cinched it up at this point. I think. I saw something online the other day that said that if this happens and this happens, this happens, and this happens, and this happens, you'd have like a 6-way tie for the SEC West or something like that. It was
right. So
anyway,
so you're saying there's a chance kind of thing.
There's definitely saying there's a chance. So just the stat line stuff, Jerry and Ely with 152 yards on the ground. There were a couple others that were in the 50-plus territory. And just Texas A&M just couldn't hang. They didn't score a point until the third quarter. So couldn't get it done, Jimbo. I bet
yeah,
you enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just it's an interesting thing to watch them. Like I said, Jekyll and Hyde and struggle. Yeah, I don't really have much else. Oh, the only other thing I was going to say was Lane again left points out there because of his analytics, and went for it on 4th down. Easily could have had field goals, and on at least one occasion, if not more. So hey, he's gonna do what he does, and the results will be what they are. I don't like it. I mean, I do like it as a non-fan, but if I was a fan, I'd hate it. But I'm telling you, they are apparently bought in. I see now, to his credit, the one that failed on, like, what was it, the 1 or 2 yard line, ended up being a safety. Remember, they got the safety because they turned it over on downs, but it was at like the 1 yard line, and they ended up getting the safety after that. And they were posting on social media. Ole Miss's social media was like, "That's why you go for it on 4th down." And I was like, I hear you, but I don't know. So,
yeah, I'm not sold on that either. The analytics of that 4th down, I mean, they went 1 for 3, which in baseball, 1 for 3 is great, but
well,
we're not playing baseball.
Right.
If you lose a game by 3, 6 points, then you're starting to think, well, maybe we shouldn't have gone for it on 4th down. But when you lose by 10, it doesn't make a difference. So
right, all that's kind of forgotten in the mix once things work out later on, right? So
exactly right. You know, it's just like any other. It's like when people run a fake punt and it doesn't work. You're like, "Oh, you're an idiot. What'd you do that for?" But then if it works, you're a genius.
That's it.
It's just one of those things. It's back and forth.
Yeah, you're either an idiot or a genius. That's how it goes. All right, let's talk about Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Kentucky winning this one 34-17. I got the point in this one. And this one was really kind of uneventful as well because Kentucky got up to a big lead early, leading 31-3 at half, and just sort of coasted the rest of the way, it appears, just looking at the scoring. But, yeah, I mean, you know, Kentucky taking care of business, right, Matt? I mean, it's Vanderbilt. So
you're exactly right. It is Vanderbilt. This is a Vanderbilt team that I think still has not won.
Yeah, they're winless in the conference.
They're winless in the SEC in the conference right now. So, but I mean, Kentucky's taking care of business. They've only got 3 losses. They're going to get a good bowl as long as they continue to win football games. I'm looking at their remaining schedule. They've got New Mexico State is going to have to play them next week, and then they got to play at Louisville. So you could be looking at 8-9 wins on the season. I'd say for Stoops, that's really pretty good. That's become the new kind of standard at Kentucky almost.
Right.
Anything less than 7 wins, and most people in Kentucky are going, "What are we doing?" Like, you know, Kentucky's not just a basketball school anymore.
Right. All right, let's go ahead and get to that final game, and that was Arkansas at LSU. Arkansas winning this one 16-13 in overtime. I got the point in this one. Yeah, so just kind of backing up a little bit and looking at the approach to this game, Coach O said that the quarterback plan for the last few games of the season would be to start Max Johnson, who has been their go-to guy this year, but then get freshman Garrett Nussmeier in the game. Nussmeier actually saw most of the snaps in this game, but obviously there wasn't a ton of offense. At the end of the regulation. Or at the end of regulation, the score was tied 13-13. In the first possession, Nussmeier threw a pick in the end zone. And on the ensuing possession, Arkansas, they just sort of set it up in the middle of the field. And Cam Little hit the 37-yard field goal to win it. So kind of dramatic fashion win there at LSU at night. Winning,
which is not easy to do, regardless of what year it is.
Traditionally, not easy to do. So Arkansas beats LSU for the first time since 2015 to win the battle for the Golden Boot, which I think we talked about. We were talking about those trophy games last week, Matt. And you mentioned the Golden Boot. So, and that thing's pretty heavy. I think it's like 120 pounds or 125 pounds or something like that.
It doesn't look light. It looks like it would be heavy. And cumbersome too. It's kind of a weird shape.
It's unwieldy. Is what it is. So
yeah, if your house was burning down and you had the Golden Boot in it, you would leave the Golden Boot there.
Be like, I can't. Yeah.
Can't. Save the dog, leave the boot.
That's it. Let's hear what Coach Sam Pittman had to say following this win.
Coach, you have just helped lead Arkansas to its first win over LSU in 5 years. How does that sound to you?
Well, it sounds awesome, but man, it was ugly. But we got it done. We got the boot, Tara.
Little, who has quite the boot as well. What did you think about him getting you guys the win in overtime?
Well, once Mo picked the second, he picked it down there in the end. we were just trying to get a few more yards and then put it in the middle because we got Mr. Automatic back there, and man, did he do a nice job. The guy's got ice water, man. For a young guy, did a heck of a job.
Well, you guys rallied coming out of halftime, and your defense played exceptional. How did you feel about your team's performance, especially the defense?
Well, it was hard. I mean, LSU's got a really good defense. We saw that last week. So it was really hard, on us offensively, and the defensive coaches did such a great job, and the players did a better job than the coaches. And then we just hung in there and made a big play, a busted play, and KJ made a big play. And, man, it's nice to be a Hog right now.
We just heard Grant Morgan say, yes, sir. Can we get it one from you?
Yes, sir. Go Hog.
Thank you, Coach.
I enjoy that so much more now that he's not doing it and waving little Georgia flags.
Right. Understandable.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much now. But if listening to that 3 years ago, I wanted to punch things.
Yeah. So big win. Look, I know LSU is kind of down. They got a lame duck coach, but it's still a huge win for Arkansas, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's remember this is an Arkansas team that, historically speaking, hasn't been good in a while. They were winless in the conference, I think, 2 years ago, weren't they? 3 years ago,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've earned this, I think. It'll be really great when they upset Alabama this weekend. But Jessie probably just dropped her water or something. By the way, I'm kidding. I don't think that's going to happen. But either way, good on Pittman. He sounds so genuinely happy, and I absolutely love it. Like Sam Pittman, Mike Leach, Joey Freshwater to a point. Like, it's just the SEC West is the place to be. Like, the rest of us over here in the East are sitting here watching Georgia beat the tar out of everybody, and it's kind of like, okay, we're having fun, I guess.
But to your point, SEC as a whole, I mean, even you could say some of them are the villains in some, if you want to characterize them. But we really have some of the best personalities in the sport and the head coaching position.
Absolutely. And you have those people that are the good guys. That would be Pittman and Leach to a point. Leach is a tweener. Like, if we're going to use wrestling terms, like, Leach is a tweener. He's a good guy, but he also has some bad guy tendencies.
Right.
Talking bad about your kicker. That's kind of a heel move. So, and then obviously you've got the heels, Saban and.
Wow. Thinking of all of these guys as a wrestling gimmick.
Kirby is definitely a heel. That haircut screams heel.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Envisioning each one of these guys with some sort of wrestling gimmick has completely changed the game. Just as we talk here. Yeah.
I need Pittman to open up an interview next week. Let me tell you something, brother.
Oh, he's done it.
He has to. I guarantee you that Sam Pittman has watched wrestling.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you that he grew up watching pro wrestling. Where is Sam Pittman from? I'm going to find out because I
don't know. But with that personality, he's probably a little bit too old now. But if he was a little bit younger, he would need to make like a guest appearance as well.
Dude, listen, he's from El Reno, Oklahoma. That guy was born in 1961, which means when he was about 8 or 9, was 1960s. Oh no, maybe probably did, maybe not, because all the stuff that really kicked on was like the 70s and 80s. So maybe Pittman's a little too old for it.
He's a late bloomer. Maybe he got into it later.
Either way.
Anyway, yeah. So great personalities, and we're looking forward to seeing more out of these crazy personalities. The current pick'em standings, I've got 32, Jesse has 27, and Matt has 25. But never fear, because we got a ton of games coming up this week, not to mention, some of the games later on, SEC championship, playoff games, national championship, bowl games, etc., are worth more. So still lots of points out there. Lots can happen.
Listen to Wes trying to make me feel better about being 7 off the pace. Hey, I appreciate that.
You want to talk about being a Georgia fan and knowing that anything can happen? Look, I'm just throwing it out there. Okay. So, anyway, all right, let's go ahead and jump into our news segment.
Here's the news.
All right, as we talked about, Bo Nix went down in the third quarter, or late third quarter, against Mississippi State. Appeared when he threw a deep ball, a defensive lineman fell against his lower body. He played a few more drives, but then they pulled him for safety. Turns out he has a broken ankle, which if you followed, you've probably seen. He had surgery on that ankle Monday and will miss the remainder of the season. So Nix is out. It looks like TJ Finley will get the starts at quarterback for Auburn from here on out. So also Auburn's kicker, Anders Carlson, is out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL as well. So they got a
kicker tear his ACL.
I didn't see how that happened, but that's another wild one, and potentially big as well. How do you think Nix being out changes the dynamic of that offense?
Well, just looking at TJ Finley's, just looking at his stats from the season, he's thrown 33 passes, 17 of them have been completed. He's thrown for 275 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's okay. Last season he got 80 passes off, 941 yards. He threw 5 TDs and 5 picks. So, and granted, that was when he was a freshman. So I don't know. I think what Auburn's probably going to have to do is they're probably going to have to rely on the run game a lot more. But the problem with relying on the run game is then people are going to start stacking the box on you. Mm-hmm. And they got a big trip to, I think they're playing in Bryant Denny this year, aren't they? For the Iron Bowl. So,
no.
Are they playing at home?
I think they are playing at home because remember wasn't Jesse reacting last week because we were talking about Jordan Hare and the Juju.
It's at Auburn.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the thing is, I think they're gonna have to rely on the run game more, but that's a two-edged sword. They can start stacking the box, which would shut down the run game, but then you can start throwing over the top. So I don't know. Does it change the dynamic a lot? I think so. Nix has been kind of the established quarterback there for a couple of years now. And we know that when he can sling it, he can sling it. I don't know if TJ Finley can sling it. I don't think we've seen much of him, enough of him to know, what's his pocket composure look like.
He did save the day against Georgia State.
That's true.
Remember
I forgot about that. You're right. He did come in and
but it was Georgia State. So grain of salt.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think, Wes?
I mean, I think it changes. It definitely changes it in the sense that I think it'll be a little bit more consistent. Now, does that consistency mean good? I don't know. I think that obviously we've talked about Nix being back and forth. You never know what you're going to get. Sometimes he'll make amazing plays and then he'll turn it right back around the next play and make some kind of bonehead decision. Yeah. I think you're going to see less of that from Finley and a little bit more consistency at the quarterback position. And perhaps, a week of preparation where he's the guy, maybe that keys in the offense as well. So we'll see. I tend to think that they will be a little less volatile with him at quarterback. But hey, we'll see.
That's a rough situation. I know that. I would not want to be TJ Finley. I would not want to be him.
Well, if I was a Auburn fan, I would just be glad that we have him because don't forget he's a transfer. So good to have. All right. In other news, in the ongoing LSU rumors, Jimbo Fisher says, "I ain't going nowhere." End quote.
Did you listen to his whole?
I didn't listen to the whole thing. I know he went on and on and on about it.
Listen, it was going back to wrestling promos. That was a babyface wrestling promo. It was really good. I know that Jesse hates Jimbo Fisher. Me personally, I'm kind of indifferent towards Jimbo Fisher. I don't know if I believe him 100%, but it's got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 85%. Jimbo went down a list of, my kids like it here. My wife likes it here. The family likes it. I've got a ranch. The boosters like me. I like the president. I like the chancellor. I like the athletic director. Like, he went down the list and he specifically said all the reasons he has no intention of ever leaving Texas A&M. Now, with that being said, does that mean if LSU shows up with a big payday that he doesn't take it? He's already one of the higher paid coaches. I don't know if he takes it. I think he said in his presser, he said, listen, if I'm planning on going to LSU, why am I putting together this recruiting class that I've got? Because if I'm at LSU, I'm gonna have to play them every season after that. So why would I sign all these kids to Texas A&M to go to LSU? And I saw somebody put something on Twitter that said any FSU fan will tell you that if he's leaving, he's going to jack up recruiting before he leaves on purpose.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's content in College Station.
Yeah, and Saturday Down South will not let us forget that the way we found out that Jimbo was leaving FSU was they found his Christmas tree on the curb. Remember that?
Right. Yeah. He put it out like what on? He put it out before Christmas, I think.
Yeah, it was early December. I think it was like the first week,
the third
in
or fourth or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody took pictures of it and was like, "Look, he's already threw his Christmas tree out. He gone, baby."
Now he contends that the Christmas tree was old and it was broken, and he got a new one.
Right, whatever you say.
But yeah, it's funny the things
the optics of that. You should have been like, "Yeah, let's wait. Let's just keep it in the garage for right now."
Yeah. So he says he wasn't home. He had some people setting it up, and they just randomly threw it out. Whatever.
For that.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And I mean, honestly, just interested to see who LSU goes with, period, because that's a big job. There's a lot of big jobs.
Huge job. It's a huge job. And there's been a lot of names being thrown around for that. I think I sent you and Jesse that article I saw earlier today that said, who was the name that popped off?
The most unusual one to me was Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley's name. It's like, why in the world? Because Nebraska ain't exactly setting anything on fire. Why would you bring in Lincoln Riley? Or sorry, no, he's at Oklahoma. My fault.
Right.
I got my Big 12 school mixed up. Why would he leave Oklahoma though?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think Nebraska's in the 10 now.
Nebraska's in the 10 now. Yeah.
If you can keep track of them as they move around, right? So,
well, they used to be Big 12.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's a big job, and like we were saying, if you can like halfway coach, and I'm not saying that Ed O is a terrible coach. Obviously, he managed to put together a perfect storm season, but I think it's one of those jobs where you've got so much talent to pull from that if you can just somewhat put together a staff, you're going to contend almost every year. And I think that's what we'll see, depending on who they can get. So, next item of news, as you know, we record Tuesday nights now because that's when the CFP rankings drop, and we'd like to have that fresh in our minds when we talk to you guys about them. So this week's rankings that just came out like an hour and a half ish ago. Actually, it was more like 2 hours ago. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Oregon. Number 4, Ohio State. Number 5, Cincinnati. Number 6, Michigan. Number 7, Michigan State. Number 8, Notre Dame. Number 9, Oklahoma State. Number 10, Wake Forest. And then rounding out the SEC teams, we've got number 12, Ole Miss, which moves up 3 from last week. Number 16, Texas A&M, which drops 5 from last week. Number 21, Arkansas, who's moved up 4 spots. And then number 25, Mississippi State, who was not ranked last week. So I honestly don't have a lot of shocks from this list. What about you?
No, again, the committee's telling Cincinnati, you're not at the big boy table. You're going to have to go chill at the kiddie table. So don't even bother getting upset about it. We all know that Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State, something's going to get wrangled out of that as the season progresses. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out why Notre Dame's in the top 10. Who did Notre Dame even play this weekend?
I forget.
Somebody irrelevant.
But again, the circular logic gets Cincinnati a top 10 win because they're in there. So
that's true.
Also, the committee is continuing to, despite a head-to-head win, they are continuing to put Michigan ahead of Michigan State, which I know has surprised a lot of people. But again, as you said, a lot of this stuff is just going to play out. And so Michigan State fans, while I'm sure they are upset by this, if they win out, they're in, because of the teams that they got to go through.
I don't know. Maybe they're not putting Cincinnati in the playoff. Never mind.
Yeah.
I got a wild hair for a minute there, and then I remembered who we were talking about.
Yeah. And it really just depends. And also Georgia, Bama, what's going to happen with that? I mean, it's very likely that that's what's going to be the case in Atlanta for SEC championship. I think if Georgia
does a 2-loss Bama team get in over?
No, I think if Bama loses, I think they're out. Now,
what if it's close?
I don't know. That's another thing, and again, it might depend on what the other teams do.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what they've said is that is a possibility because not a lot of teams have done that against Georgia this year. So if Bama can do that, does that prove that they are the number 2 team in the nation, or whatever? So anyway, it's again not much movement really in the top. I think the top 7 or 8 teams were all the same as last year or last week, or at least thereabouts.
I don't think much changed.
Yeah. So we'll see how that continues to evolve over the next couple of weeks.
Well, Oklahoma dropped out, didn't they?
Yeah. I think they were weren't they number 8? Because that's why Notre Dame moved up. I think
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they lost to Baylor.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got tossed out there.
And in other news that has nothing to do with the SEC, but is just completely bizarre, Texas lost to Kansas. In it was overtime, right?
They did.
So,
Kansas.
It's another one of those deals where a team is going through a bunch of changes. So who knows? But hey, kudos to Kansas. I'm sure they feel fantastic.
Wes, what if Texas and Oklahoma come into the conference and they absolutely suck?
You mean what if they come in and they're like Vandy?
No, not that bad. No. I'm talking like mid-tier, like what Tennessee is right now, or Mississippi State.
It will be interesting once they come in to see where once they get into a divisional schedule or a conference schedule, SEC conference schedule, where they will settle in. And I bet you're probably right. I think they'll probably slide in about mid-tier, and then maybe once they recruit, amongst other SEC schools, they might.
It's going to be so weird. It's going to be so weird in a couple of years when we're like, all right, Vanderbilt took on Oklahoma today.
It's going to be everybody's on the edge of their seat. What's going to happen?
Yeah. Texas is taking on Mississippi State this weekend.
Both teams are winless in the conference. Who's going to?
But it will be interesting when Oklahoma and Texas and Arkansas are having to play each other all the time again.
Oh yeah,
because that's was it a Big 8 rivalry, the Southwest rivalry. I can't remember what conference it was. It was one of those conferences back in the 80s where it might have been the Southwest Conference where they were playing each other all the time. So
yeah, and was it Oklahoma or was it Texas? Did they help found the Big 12? I don't know. They were just talking about the irony of teams that helped found it are like, I'm out.
Yeah, I think Nebraska was in there. I think because before it was the Big 12, it was Big 8. Let's move on, and I'll take a look.
Yeah, it's just something that came to my mind. Anyway, all right, cool. Well, lots of stuff to talk about, and let's listen to what you guys had to talk about. And go ahead and get into a little bit of our listener feedback.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
All right, the first comment we have here is from Philip Columbia, and he says that Texas A&M played their asses off against Bama, but that team hasn't been seen since. Ole Miss is good, but not that good. And then his final thought is the Dogs can win against the flu and anybody else, which I neglected to mention. But, yeah, there were a lot of guys out with the flu, and even some guys that started the game were unable to finish due to that. But
nice.
But yeah, A&M. It was like we said before, kind of Jekyll and Hyde. They played amazing against Bama, and then it's just like where did that team go, right?
Yeah. By the way, I do want to play devil's advocate here for Mr. Columbia, which, by the way, if that is your real name.
I know you have a vendetta.
Philip Columbia sounds like a daggone pseudonym. I don't care what anyone says. It sounds like a hard-boiled detective from like the 1930s or something. He says Ole Miss is good, but not that good. I beg to differ. I think Ole Miss is a pretty good football team. They've improved defensively than they've looked the last couple of years. Offense is really, really solid. The only game that Ole Miss has really struggled to do anything is Bama. So I'd say they're a really good team. Really good team.
I completely agree with you. They've definitely evolved.
To go to bat for my boy Joey Freshwater again.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. Next we have Janet Russell says she has some observations. The third string Bama quarterback, Milroe, is legit. I predict he is going to be better than Bryce Young, which is big because, he's highly touted as well. Second time I have seen him and was just as impressed the first time as this time. Remember him. Next, Lane gets more entertaining and, dare I say it, more likable each week. Then she hates to hear that about Bo Nix. She's a Bama fan. Wouldn't even wish season-ending injuries on a Barner. Finally, speaking
Hold on, time out. What's a Barner? Is that an Auburn?
Oh, really? Thing? Yeah. Oh, so that's a thing. So because Auburn is an agricultural school, Bama fans call Auburn people Barners.
That's awful. Anyway, go ahead.
And I think what do Auburn people call Bammers? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, then finally, speaking of injuries, Kirby is going to push his luck too far and will sustain some injuries on key players if he keeps making the huge mistake of leaving his starters in for longer than necessary. He is notorious for that. It will bite him in the butt sooner or later. Mm-hmm. So just starting from the top, third string quarterback for Bama, I would actually like to see a little bit more of this kid. And a lot of people are really hyping him that he is the future there at Bama. So interesting to watch him. Lane's gets more entertaining. Yeah, I mean,
I completely agree.
Guest picker at game day too. A great platform. And from what I could hear, the game day guys just really loved Oxford as well. It was just a nice place, the Grove, all that. And then obviously Bo Nix we talked about. And then, all right, so the thing about Kirby and leaving people in, I feel like notorious is a little unfair. But, hey, so I get that because I was a little frustrated with him leaving people in at the end against Tennessee, especially when I saw Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt go down. But, I mean, in fairness, we do rotate a lot of guys in and out. And then they're obviously the starters for a reason. And Kirby even mentioned talking about Tennessee and their offense. Let's not forget that a couple of weeks ago, Tennessee is the team that had the ball for 13 minutes and scored 40-something points. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, look, I get it. When it's down to maybe a couple of minutes, maybe you start pulling people out. But if it's the fourth quarter still against Tennessee, you never know. Yeah. They start to get on a roll, and that high-tempo offense just takes off, and before you know it, it's they're right back in it. So, to a certain extent, I understand it. Now, of course, it's a balance, and he has to figure out that balance as far as keeping guys in, because we don't. If anything, obviously that's the exact thing we don't want, especially with Charleston Southern coming up, and then Georgia Tech the week after that. We just want to get through these next two games without injury and be fresh for Atlanta. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Did you have any thoughts on any of those, Matt?
No, as far as most of that goes, before we start calling their third string quarterback legit, let's see him do it against somebody that's not named North Dakota State or New Mexico State or what have you. Right. But I'm not going to argue with your mother-in-law. Oh, sorry, we went behind the curtain there. You're right about that. Yeah, you're right about Lane. Lane definitely is getting more likable, which is, if you'd told us 10 years ago we'd like Lane Kiffin, we'd have been like, there's no chance in hell of that, because that makes zero sense.
A sleaze bag, right?
This is the absolute nut job, Lane Kiffin. Yeah. No, thank you. My cat's about to make an appearance on the show. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're at the beach. You're not supposed to be here. Come on. Oh, gracious. All right. And I think she's got a point about Kirby leaving people in too long. And I think you're also right to play off your point about, that being he's doing this is attention-seeking behavior. I think you're right that, maybe you don't want to give Tennessee a chance to get back into this thing. So maybe you keep the pressure up, you keep your 1s and 2s in there. You don't let anybody else really get any reps until you've really sealed the deal. Which, by the way, I want to point out that Tennessee scored the most points against Georgia this season.
It's true.
So I'll take it. Nobody got above 13. We got above 17. So we got something. The injury bug has not hit Georgia that hard, I don't think. Wes, you'll have to correct me. I think you had a wide receiver that was out for a couple weeks.
We
bum wheel at some point, but
we kind of started the season with the injury bug with
Pickens had an injury, I think.
Yeah, George Pickens, Dominic Blaylock was out, Kyrus Jackson, a bunch of tight ends were out. I mean, if anything, we sort of did it in reverse. We had tons of guys out at the beginning of the season, and we've kind of gradually seen them coming back. Darnell Washington at tight end, the big guy, he's come back, and so it's kind of gone in reverse. But yeah, we got to be careful for sure.
Yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. But Kirby does have a bad habit of leaving people in too long, so let's hope that doesn't come back into play later.
Yep. Like I said, 2 weeks. We gotta be careful with that. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk about the upcoming matchups.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right, the first game that we've got, and we got a lot of them this week, is the Charleston Southern Buccaneers at 4-5 at Georgia 10-0. That's noon on ESPN Plus. Look, I know the defense plays with a lot of pride for Georgia, but I think the 2s, 3s, and whoever else is on the chart get some playing time in this one. I don't think it's going to be a shutout. I think we're going to score a lot of points, but not a shutout. I got Georgia winning this one 63-10. Jessie has gone ahead and put in her picks. She's got Georgia 52-6. Matt, what you got?
I don't foresee that Georgia's going to struggle at all with the Buccaneers from Charleston Southern. So, I'm going to say UGA wins 56-10.
All right. Next, we have the Prairie View A&M Panthers, which are, if you're wondering, in the northwestern edge of Houston, Texas. At 7-2, at the Texas A&M Aggies at 7-3. Noon on ESPN Plus again. I got Texas A&M winning this one big, 48-13. Jesse has A&M 32-10. Matt?
Yeah, I think A&M's going to be looking to get a little bit back here this week. Coming off a loss against Mississippi State, so they're going to want to try to do a little bit. So I'm going to say TAMU wins 35-3. Okay.
Next, New Mexico State at 1-9 at Kentucky 7-3. By the way, I hope New Mexico State is banking all of this money, because we have seen them make the tour around to get a whooping. I don't know how many times this year.
Yeah, they're probably looking to add on to their football stadium.
Something.
So this is how they're affording to pay for that extra new set of stands.
I mean, I hope they're doing something with it, man, because that's brutal. But yeah, New Mexico State at Kentucky, noon on SEC Network. Kentucky, again, as we mentioned, shouldn't have any problem here. I got them winning 48-12. Jesse has Kentucky winning 34-13. Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the group and say Kentucky wins this thing 45-17.
All right. Next we have the Tennessee State Tigers of Nashville at 5-5 at Mississippi State at 6-4. That's noon on ESPN Plus. By the way, if you look at the TSU logo, the Tiger looks almost exactly like LSU. The TSU looks like an LSU. It's a curved T. I'm just saying, maybe if it's about brand recognition, maybe they're trying to trick some people into coming there. They thought it was LSU.
I would hope a kid's not like, I thought this was LSU. This is Tennessee State. Logo had an L on it. I'm confused. No, I don't think that's going to happen. By the way, I don't know why Gomer Pyle is playing middle linebacker for Tennessee State.
It might work with Gomer though. He might be able to fool him, but
I mean, he got fooled into joining the U.S. Marine Corps. So
that's right.
Why not?
That's right. So anyway, I got Mississippi State winning this one 56-17. As Mike Leach said, you thought last week was a thriller. We got a real big thriller this weekend. And I'm just thinking, wait, what?
Thriller for who?
Yeah, exactly.
Thriller for the third and fourth string, because they're going to get in about middle of third quarter.
Right. Yeah. So Jesse has Mississippi State winning this one 49-13. Matt, what you got?
You know what? I was going to say 49-3, but then I thought about it a little bit more. I'm going to say 49-17 is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I was going to say 49-3, but I have a hard time imagining they only score 3 points.
Like everybody's getting a little playing time, and who knows? Stuff happens. Yeah. I got you. All right. And then the 3:30 p.m. on CBS SEC game of the day is Arkansas 7-3, 3-3 in the conference at Alabama, 9-1, 5-1 in the conference. This one should be an exciting one. I think it kind of depends on what kind of start they get off to. It is at Alabama also, and we've seen Arkansas struggle with a trying home crowd. Obviously not last week against LSU, but at Georgia they definitely struggled with some crowd noise being on the road. I think that kind of continues. I got Bama winning this one 34-13. Jesse has Bama 31-14. Matt, what you got?
Vegas is giving no respect to Arkansas. None. The line on this game is 20.5 Bama right now. So, with that being said, I think that this game is a one-score game coming down to the fourth quarter. I think that Bama gets a score late to pull away, but I'm going to say the final score for this game is 28-14. Bama.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope so. I mean, I'd hate to watch a blowout. Obviously, if I was a Bama.
Nobody wants a blowout.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch that unless you're a fan of that.
Unless you're a coach, or that's exactly right.
Yeah. All right. Next, Florida at 5-5, 2-5 in the conference at Mizzou, also 5-5, 2-4 in the conference. 4 p.m. on SEC Network. Look, this is at home for Mizzou, and Florida is looking rough right now. I don't know this, and this may be. I may regret this, but I got the upset. I'm going with the upset here. Mizzou, 38-35.
Wow.
Jesse is going more conventional. She's got Florida winning 24-17. Matt, what you got?
Wes, I'm shocked. I thought you had better judgment than that.
Florida's looking bad, man.
Look, you're not wrong. Florida is looking exceptionally bad. But let's look at who we're talking about here. It's Missouri. Their head coach's last name is Drinky, for God's sake. Listen, Florida can put points up. They proved that against Samford. They've proven that with a couple of different schools they played. I don't foresee Florida going to struggle really too badly with this one, especially given how awful Missouri's defense is. So I'm going to say Florida wins this thing 35-10.
And who knows, if it comes down to that, it might be one of those offensive slugfests. We might see a really high scoring one. Who knows?
Like a 42-48 or something like that.
Right.
Oof, let's not do that.
All right, next we have Auburn at 6-4, 3-3 in the conference at South Carolina, 5-5, 2-5 in the conference at 7:00 on ESPN. I don't know. I know that Auburn has had their struggles. They had a huge letdown last week, but I still am going to go with the Tigers. I got Auburn winning this one 24-17. Jesse is going with the upset, South Carolina winning 24-21.
Look at y'all being crazy. Y'all being crazy with all these upset picks. What y'all are doing? Yeah, come on now. Come on. This is South Carolina. They struggle with Vanderbilt, for God's sake. They somehow found a way to beat Florida. But, back home, we got to say, and occasionally a blind squirrel finds a nut. But, listen, Carolina ain't finding no nut on Saturday. So I'm going to say Auburn wins this thing 28-20.
All right.
In fact, I'm going to go back and change that. I'm sorry. Hold on. I gave Missouri a little bit too much credit there. I'm going to say
South Carolina.
35. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. Why did I say Missouri? I'm going to say Auburn 35-20.
35-20 Auburn. All right.
3-score game.
All right. All right. Next we have Vanderbilt at 2-8, winless in the conference still. at Ole Miss, 8-2, 4-2 in the conference, 7:30 p.m. on SEC Network. Yeah, the winless thing's not going to change. Ole Miss cruises in this one, 49-13. Jesse says basically the same, that they will not have a problem. Ole Miss winning 41-10. Matt, what you got?
More nukes. Poor Vanderbilt can't get off the mat. They keep getting pushed down. It's not going to be pretty. Ole Miss is going to probably put some hurting on them. So I'm going to say Ole Miss 45-10.
All righty. Next, we have South Alabama at 5-5, at Tennessee at 5-5. That's 7:30 p.m. on ESPNU. Yeah, this is kind of a tune-up game for Tennessee. If they have any pent-up rage from the last one, it's going to be let out in this one, I think. Tennessee wins this one easily, 45-17. Jesse's got Tennessee winning 34-13. Matt, what you got?
Yeah, I don't foresee Tennessee being able to really pull this. Excuse me. I don't see South Alabama being able to pull this thing off. This is a 5-5 South Alabama team. They have losses to University of Louisiana Monroe, Texas State, University of Louisiana University of Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, not the University of Louisiana Monroe. They also have lost to them. Losses to Troy and Appy State. Yeah, it's not going to end well. So I'm going to say Tennessee wins this ball game, and Tennessee wins 63-21.
All right, and then
for the Vols.
And then finally we have UL Monroe 4-6 at LSU, also 4-6 right now. 9:00 on ESPN2. Yeah, this one is going to be a practice game for LSU. They win this one handily, 44-14. Jesse has LSU winning 37-17. Matt?
LSU rolls here 38-10.
Good picks. All right. So lots of, games that should be nukes on Saturday, but we'll keep an eye on those. And
we thought Florida Sanford was going to be a nuke. It was a nuke, kind of.
That's an excellent point. It was insane is what it was. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then, like I said, lots of points out there too. So, and in case anyone's forgot, we have the pick'em, and then the winner at the end of the year gets a nice crisp $100 bill. Look, you're not going to get rich, but it will buy you a really nice dinner somewhere. Okay. So
yeah, well, really nice dinner for $100. Yeah. You can get fancy like Applebee's.
That's it. I love it.
I freaking hate that song. I hate that song with a passion. I don't know who wrote that song, but they need to just go somewhere.
All right. Well, on that note, let's end the show. We'll get you guys out of here on a note of giving you guys contact info. If you would like to hit us up on email, please do so at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/pigskinsandpageantry. We're on Twitter at PPSCC Podcast, and also Instagram at Pigskins and Pageantry. And we now have a link tree on all of our social medias. So if you have one and you can click the bio in any of them, you should be able to see them all. You'll see YouTube, you'll see it all there, iTunes and everything. We are available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. If you enjoyed the show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you'd hit subscribe and review. 5 stars, we would love that. Appreciate that. It would help people know how awesome we are and join in on the conversation. So until next time, let's go get them. Go Dogs.
Do you want to do Jesse? You want me to do Jesse?
Go for it. You do it.
Have a good week, y'all. Roll Tide. She's going to kick my face in for that. Hey, Mercer has a chance to win the Southern Conference this weekend if they can beat East Tennessee State. So with that being said, go Vols and go Bears.
Also, did you see the play at the end of the last game where they did the play from the Water Boy?
Yes, I saw that.
Love
Fantastic work.
You love to see it.
You love to see it.
See you next time, guys.